Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinav Aditamastu Ma Vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Hari Om Tat Sat. So, I will just say this gently. If there's any way that we could all be here at 8 p.m. so that we get a start, now we're now starting at 8:05. I know that we run over, so that may be a thought for people. Well, I don't have to be on time because the class is not really a strictly time bound. Well, as I say, I'm saying this gently. It would be a kindness if everyone could make an effort to be here promptly at 8 o'clock, just so that we get, it just feels more comfortable. So, of course, we're studying the life of Holy Mother. Everyone here knows that full well. I don't need to explain anything or say anything. So if you would announce the page that we're on in paragraph Didi, then everyone, I'm sure everyone knows, but nevertheless, just give it a try.
Yes, we're on page 538, third paragraph. Okay. Lakshmi Majuba and her husband Yogindra Das had their home in Haldi, a village close to Jayarampati, where many low-caste people lived. Yogindra was the head of Holy Mother's palanquin bearers, and he used a rowboat to catch fish in the Amoda River. One night, Yogindra was drunk and beat his wife. The next morning, she went to the mother and complained against her husband. Immediately, the mother called for Yogindra and asked angrily, "Why did you beat?"
Notice that this is the kind of thing that made Mother angry.
Yes.
This kind of abuse, particularly men against women. There were other instances where she really called a husband to account. There was one where she witnessed a husband beating his wife from the balcony of the Udbodan residence. And she really took him to task. She didn't have to wait for the wife to come and complain. So anyway, the mother said angrily, "Please go ahead, dear."
The mother called for Yogindra and asked angrily, "Why did you beat your wife?" He replied, "Didi," that means sister, "I have no son. My family line will be extinguished. I beat her out of frustration." The mother firmly told him, "Never raise your hand to your wife and never abuse her verbally."
Notice it isn't just physically, but also don't abuse her psychologically either. Oh, what a lesson for the world to take to heart. So much. There's more psychological abuse than physical abuse, but there's plenty of physical abuse also, as we well know. So don't even verbally abuse her. Don't psychologically abuse her. Okay, dear.
You are unhappy because you have no son. She is equally unhappy. What can she do? Ashamed, Jogindra stood there with his head down. Then the mother said, "Go home. I tell you, by the grace of the Master, you will have a son, but never beat your wife."
And listen to the mother making a promise. You know, even our negative actions are prayers. Even things like beating your wife out of frustration, not having a son. This is a prayer that the Divine Mother will answer. It's she will also do the scolding, but out of the grace, by the grace of the Master, you will have a son.
Through the blessing of Holy Mother, Majiba and her husband Jogindra Das had a son and afterwards another son. The mother named him Shantiram or Shanti and arranged for his rice feeding ceremony with the Master's prasad. How wonderful.
Yes.
She also gave the baby 2 silver bangles. When Shantiram was a little boy, he and his parents would visit Holy Mother, who gave the boy various sweets and puffed rice to eat. Jairampati did not have a market, so people would go to Haldi to buy groceries and cloth. It is said that during the early days, when the Calcutta devotees came to Jairampati, the mother went to Haldi along with 1 or 2 companions in the early hours of the morning to buy groceries.
Just it is useful for us to remember that the mother got up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So when we're talking early hours of the morning, probably after she had finished what she needed to do, they probably left at 4 or 5 in the morning. One of the reasons, of course, is to not be walking in the heat. It's cooler. The coolest time of the day is actually right around 8 a.m. So that's a meteorological fact. The temperature goes down, and then anyway.
That's true. Before the devotees got up, the mother had returned to her cottage. When Shanti was 10 years old, the mother left Jairambati for the last time. He recalled that picture of the mother's departure is still vivid to me. She was in my father's palanquin, and Barada Maharaj followed her on foot. She went to Vishnupur via Sihar. The mother worshipped Shantinath Shiva with sweets and then distributed prasad to us. Then her palanquin left for Kolpara and I returned home. It was the last time I saw the mother.
In other words, this was, mother didn't come back to Jairambati because of her final illness and her Mahasamadhi. So let's just stop there and see if there are any questions or comments from anyone. Anything that anyone wants to add from their own wisdom, or any concern or question they'd like to raise? Anything at all? Well, I think we've seen more instances of the mother's compassion. Jogindra and his wife had not 1 son, but 2. And the second son, the first son, of course, would be favored by the family. So the mother favored the second son, Shantiram, and gave him, helped him with his feeling about himself. Obviously, it really took, because he said he has a vivid memory of the last time he saw mother. Anything else from anyone before we read on? Okay, please, dear.
Sure. Also, Brother Shankara, there was a small note at the bottom of the page saying Jogendra had 6 children, first 2 daughters, then 2 sons, and then 2 more daughters.
Ah, well,
So he had totally
he was a busy man
busy guy.
uh, to have so many children.
So many kids.
And of course, the master remarked more than once that having that many children, you really place a great burden on yourself.
That's right.
And of course, 4 daughters, that would have been a very difficult marriage situation. He was not a wealthy man. So if he was, catching fish in the river for his family to eat, that was just a little note as it went by, but it was interesting to note that, he not only did his palanquin business, but, he also fished in the river to get enough for his family to eat. So the master discouraged people from having more than 2 children. But in this case, of course, the first 2 were daughters, and by the master's grace, as was said.
Also, India didn't have birth control rules until after the independence, I believe, Brother Shankara.
I'm sure not, yes.
Yes, in those days, those early 1900s and late 1800s, I don't think people knew the birth control. They just thought God was giving children. That's
Well,
how.
not only that, but the British
Yes,
wanted
exactly.
the population to grow because that benefited them. So they made no effort to discourage that.
Later on, birth control issues came, and then people went to villagers, educated people, and trained them not to have more than 2 children, and that all came when I was growing up.
The Ramakrishna mission was part of that
Right.
activity by the encouragement of Swami Vivekananda. So, anything else before we read on?
Oh, just a general question. How many siblings did Sri Ramakrishna have?
Well, that he came from a large family. I think there were 5 children altogether.
5 children, obviously.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he approved of it. But as Haima Didi pointed out, there was no thought of birth control in those days. They just felt that God gave them children, if they thought about it at all, which, of course,
Did
to be
any of
born
his
into Sri Ramakrishna's family
I see.
would have been a great, that would have been a karmic event. It would have been really something, great austerities must have been, his mother pointed out about her brothers, that there must have been a great deal of austerities for those people who were born into the master's family.
Did any of them get into monastic life that we know of?
No,
No. Okay.
they were Brahmins. It was not as common in those days for Brahmins to become monastics. They were priests, and that was, his Sri Ramakrishna's older brother went to Calcutta after the father died to make a living for the family, and then brought Sri Ramakrishna with him to help increase that income. And of course, Sri Ramakrishna didn't cooperate with that very well. He was a very charming young priest for many of the wealthy families in Kolkata, and they liked him very much. But he reluctantly became a temple priest at Dakshineshwar. It wasn't something that he that's a whole other story. We don't need to go off in that direction. But there weren't so many Brahmins as monastics in those
I
days.
see. Mhm.
Uh,
Oh,
now, but after the Ramakrishna order transformed monasticism, and it did transform monasticism in India, it gave it a whole new character. Not all of the monastic orders, of course, cooperate with that, but many who were very much influenced, and particularly new ones that started up, were very much built along the Ramakrishna order model of social service and education, health care, all these things, service to the downtrodden. And so many and many more Brahmins became monastics. That's the understanding from here.
I see. Thank you.
Anything else, dears? Okay,
Okay.
please read on, dear.
One year, there was a drought in the Jairambati area, and the rice fields were almost dry. After bathing in the pond, Holy Mother went to the Simhavahini temple, bowed down and prayed, Mother, if there is no rain, my children will not have any food. How can I watch my children starve? The children will come to me and say, Mother, we have no food to eat. Holy Mother returned to her cottage and began to worship the Master. Immediately, there was the sound of rumbling in the clouds and then a torrential rain. The farmers' crops were saved. Wow.
Well, this is again, you can say this is a miracle. This is the way some people would characterize this. But it doesn't seem like a miracle to me. It just means that the mother drew the divine presence's attention both at the Simhavahini temple and the master to this dire situation. And of course, she could not be denied. Well, again, it's a lesson for us. Let us, when she said, I mean, it's so good for us to remember. When you are in distress, remember you have a mother. I am your true mother, not just the wife of your guru, not just a false mother, not an adopted mother. I am your true mother. So, and I'm sure the villagers had, they hadn't probably been coming to Mother and asking her to do anything about it, but I'm sure it was very much the conversation in the village of Jairambati that things were pretty dire. If there wasn't some rain, it would be, starvation. So we can depend on the compassion of the divine. But as Mother modeled for us, as Mother showed us, it's good to bring these things to the Lord's attention. It's a big universe. There are lots of things for Ishvara, Ishwari to attend to. So it doesn't do any harm at all. As a matter of fact, Sri Ramakrishna very much encouraged it. Speak up. He even said, if necessary, be a tamasic devotee. Be insistent. Be like a petulant child. What? Am I your 8-month child? Pay attention to me. Pay attention to my needs. He actively encouraged that. It's in the gospel. Anything else before we read on? What's the footnote there? Says there's a
the one.
35.
That is the one. He had 6 children. That is the
I see. That's the one. Okay.
Right. Yes. And
Okay. Anything else from anyone before we read on? Okay.
we're going to have a side heading, Holy Mother and the Minstrels. That's the next.
This is a fun bit here.
Okay. In 1917, Jagadatri Puja was held in Holy Mother's new residence at Jairambati for the first time. The mother herself prepared everything needed for the Divine Mother's worship. Brahmacharis Rajan and Barada came to Jairambati from Kolpara the day before the ceremony to help. The morning of Jagadatri Puja, Holy Mother went to the altar and prayed to the Divine Mother that the worship would be accomplished without any problems.
Now, will someone tell us who knows in some detail the significance of Jagadatri Puja? I mean, Jagadatri is another form of the mother. What is the significance? Why did Mother make a point of celebrating Jagadatri Puja? All right. I don't know myself, and so that's why I asked if there was anyone who did know.
I'm looking at this, Brother Shankara, see if I could get any answer here.
All right. Anyway, Holy Mother was very concerned. She prayed to the Divine Mother that the worship would be accomplished without any problems. Okay? Read on, dear.
Okay. The morning of Jagadatri Puja, Holy Mother went to the altar and prayed to the Divine Mother that the worship would be accomplished without any problems. After the worship, homa fire, food offering, and arati, the mother again came to bow down to the Divine Mother. She also bowed down to the priest, and the priest prompted her. All of the devotees and the villagers had a sumptuous feast of prasad, which made the mother happy.
Now, see, just that note. It made the mother happy. She loved to see her children well fed. And this is why Swami Prabhavananda, he actually said these words. You know, there would be prasad after the pujas in Hollywood. And he would say, eat, eat, eat. Prasad has no calories. And he would encourage you to have a second piece of pie or cake. You know, he really would. You know, eat, eat, eat. Prasad has no calories. Now, what do we say about that?
That's how calories.
How can, if a holy man repeats it 3 times, it has to be true. It has to be a fact. And he was emphatically a holy man. So people took him seriously. And, you know, oftentimes there were these wonderful pies and cakes, but especially the pies. Well, maybe that's just because I like pies. But in any event, these wonderful pies that were baked by the devotees, and cherry pies and apple pies and peach pies and so on. And so we were being encouraged to partake. All right.
Okay, about Jagadatri, she is a form of Durga. And I just got the little description on the about Jagadatri, Brother Shankara, just to give you information. She is another form of Devi Durga. She comes to save the people from the demonic reign of the Asuras.
Oh,
So
I didn't remember her name being mentioned in the Chandi.
she's like
So
Parvati, right?
She probably goes by the name Ambika.
Ambika. So many names for Parvati and Durga. This is another name in Chandigarh. Chandigarh is that area of that territory.
I see. So it's a local name.
They have a Jagadatri temple probably there. So.
All right, dear. Well, thank you for looking it up and for giving us that. So it's a form of Durga,
Yes,
the protectress of the universe.
and the Jagadatri Puja comes on 13th of November this year. It's around Diwali time. Next week, 4th is Diwali. Just around that time, Jagadatri Puja comes.
How sweet.
Yes.
Well, we'll hold that in mind.
Right.
Thank you, dear, and
Okay.
for that.
Sure.
And so
I'll
then
go on with the reading.
please read on, yes.
Sure. The next morning, Lalu of Sadbury village came to Jairambati. He was a fisherman and also a folk singer. He bowed down to the mother and said, "Aunt, I want to sing ball songs this evening in front of the deity." Holy Mother discouraged him, saying, "No, my child, that's not possible. It will create a lot of problems for me. Where shall I get a canopy and light? I cannot arrange those things." But Lalu was insistent. "Aunt, I shall gather everything. You will not have to worry at all."
What a wonderful display of devotion.
Yeah. Late that afternoon, Lalu arrived carrying a broken tin trunk on his head and a drum on his back. When Holy Mother saw him, she said, "Lalu, people will make fun of you. You should sing a couple of devotional songs to Mother Jagadatri with the monks and then leave after having prasad." Lalu would not listen to her. He set up some bamboo poles in the front courtyard and tied a torn jute cloth to them as a canopy. He hung a kerosene lantern on a post. He then marched through the village, beating his drum and announcing the performance. When he returned to the courtyard, he began beating his drum with great enthusiasm in front of the deity. An audience gathered. He opened his trunk, took out his cloak, his anklets, and his ektara, which is a one-stringed instrument. However, when he pulled out his cloak, a few cockroaches fell off. Nalini shouted, "You wretch, do not sing here. You have come here to release your cockroaches. Close your trunk right now and leave." Lalu paid no heed to Nalini. He shook his cloak a few times and put it on. He then began to play his ektara and sing this song. He is really a fool who thinks that the world is real. Think, who is your father and uncle in this world? You are now smoking tobacco through your hubble bubble, which is making the bubbling sound. When you lose your teeth in old age, you will have to eat puffed rice powder. That was his song.
Yes.
Lalu entertained his audience by singing a few more humorous and devotional songs. Holy Mother and the villagers laughed heartily.
And there's
Go ahead.
what does the footnote say?
What, Brother Shankara?
There's a footnote, 36 footnote.
There isn't anything on this page.
Well, never mind.
Next page, there is one. I will let you know. And then shortly before Durga Puja every year, the minstrels of Bengal, known as bowls, go from door to door singing Agamani songs. Agamani is a kind of popular devotional song based on the stories of Shiva Parvati and associated with Durga Puja, which is held in autumn. The songs tell the story of Parvati, also called Uma, who was married to Shiva. When she went to her husband's house after the wedding, her mother Menaka was worried about her because Shiva was known as a poor beggar. In autumn, Menaka asked her husband to bring Parvati home. but Parvati stayed for only 3 days. This visit is celebrated as Durga Puja.
Ah,
There it is.
well,
The
but the
song,
Durga
yeah,
Puja goes on for 9 days, does it not? Or is this Durga? No,
Navaratri
that's
times.
Navaratri.
Navaratri is 9 days. Nava is 9.
Just Durga Puja 3 days. That's right. I remember
This
reading it in the
particular.
gospel. I remember reading about it in the gospel now.
Okay.
Ram held a Durga Puja at his house and became very overwhelmed.
The,
Okay.
the songs composed about her return to her parental home are known as Agamani songs.
Yes,
Once
it's interesting. It's
it's,
interesting about
I never even heard of this
this
book.
relationship between Shiva and Uma or Parvati. Hmm. Yeah, he was a hemp smoking, romabout. He had that reputation. Not the majestic Shiva of the ice cave, but this hemp smoking, and so when she was married to him, her mother especially was very worried about it. These are some sweet stories.
There is a very sweet story about Shiva and Parvati. I'm sure you know all. He
Well,
came,
I don't know all of them.
majority of those probably, like he
There
came.
are, there are many sweet stories of their marriage. Of course, the Ganesha story and all that. Okay, please read on. Unless there are any other comments or questions by anyone. Anything else from anyone? All right, please read on, dear.
Once a village minstrel began to sing an Agamani song while sitting near the entrance to the mother's courtyard. Ashu saw the mother seated near the door, listening to this song. Go, go, oh my husband Giri, please bring Gauri, that is Uma, who is in distress. In my dream, I heard from the sage Narada that Uma cried, saying, Mama, your son-in-law is a bhang addict, beggar, and my Gauri is a golden daughter. Her husband sold all of Uma's beautiful clothes and jewelry and enjoyed bhang.
Bhang is hemp or marijuana.
Bhang
Actually,
is
it's a very strong form.
exactly bhang is marijuana. That is the footnote we have in the book.
Yeah, but bhang, the kind of this anyway, it's strong. It's not ordinary kind of. Anyway.
When the song was over, the mother remained seated motionless. The minstrel asked for a few coins, but she could not answer. Ashu gave him 4 pies and he left. 10 minutes passed. Still Holy Mother did not move. Ashu asked her to go to her room, but she did not respond at first. When requested a second time, she said, let us go. Now everything is distasteful to me. After a while, she got up and sat on the floor in her room. Ashu observed her abstracted mood. Soon she exclaimed, how many days more to go? A long time has passed. Gradually, she became normal and began to rub oil on her body and left for her bath. Probably that song reminded her of her true nature.
Hang on just a moment. Something has
Sure.
happened here. Oh, my poor vision. me. Oh, go ahead reading, dear. I'll have to catch up somehow or another.
No, yeah, we are
It, it,
changing
it,
into.
it did something funny. Lord
Okay.
only knows why.
Okay.
But you go ahead and I'll catch up.
We're moving on to a different paragraph, different para, Brother Shankar.
Can you read that part? Because
Sure.
the last few lines. And
I
have
will.
comment.
Definitely. Let me read that whole paragraph. When the song was over, the mother remained seated motionless. The minstrel asked for a few coins, but she could not answer. Ashu gave him 4 pies and he left. 10 minutes passed. Still, Holy Mother did not move. Ashu asked her to go to her room, but she did not respond at first. When requested a second time, she said, "Let us go. Now everything is distasteful to me." After a while, she got up and sat on the floor in her room. Ashu observed her abstracted mood. Soon she exclaimed, "How many days more to go?" A long time has passed. Gradually, she became normal and began to rub oil on her body and left for her bath. Probably that song reminded her of her true nature.
Well, you know, this is cause for us to feel great compassion for her, because after a while she got up and sat on the floor of her room. Ashu observed her abstracted mood. Soon she exclaimed, "How many more days to go? How many days more to go? A long time has passed." She bore a great burden for, I mean, Ishvara Ishwari, as both the master and mother pointed out, they're not two beings, they're one being in two forms. But she was left in that form to carry this great burden. And when she was reminded of who she really is and her relationship with Shiva, which is if you read the Shiva Purana, some of those things, it's a magical relationship. It is beyond any description, any understanding by the human mind. And so I'm sure that this did remind her of her true nature. There's again a footnote. Does it say what it did?
It says Bang is marijuana. That's the only footnote I have here.
Okay.
That's the only footnote I have here.
That was 36. Now there's 37. We'll get to it, I suppose.
Okay.
So
Now
please read on.
Okay, we're going into a different side heading.
To make a comment.
Sure.
Sure, please.
About the sentence she said, long time has passed. How long and long time has passed. Swami Saradananda, when he used to be in similar abstract mood, he used to say the same thing. And he used to say, "It's been so long." And someone asked him, and he gave an explanation to it, a technical explanation.
Please tell us.
What he said is that when a person realizes his true nature, everything seems very unreal. And what happens is that the association of the mind completely goes away. So even if something has passed away, happened 20, 30 years ago, it seems like it's been very far away, because it's very it's not very clear. It's past. There is no attachment. There is no, because like old people, if I've seen my dad, sometimes he'll say, I remember everything from my childhood. Now it starts coming up. But with realized souls, he said everything just gone out. And one of the reasons he said is that there are so many, the mind goes through so much of tremendous changes biologically also with the thoughts and everything that there is no association. And that's why he used to say, it's been so long, it's been so long. And I've heard it somewhere else. So I just wanted to point that out.
Well, thank you, Shailesh. And I'm sure what he was referring to was his relationship with the master. And for that matter, the master said of Saradananda that he had been one of Christ's direct disciples. He and Ramakrishnananda had been direct disciples of Christ. And he never identified which ones they were. And I don't think either one of them did either. But this is what the master said. So what their experience of this reality that we live in, what it must have been for them, is inconceivable to us. Holy Mother, Sharadananda, the Master. This is one of the things that if we read the Gospel, it's just astounding how light-hearted the Master remained. How there's always a touch of love and compassion and humor, even when he's saying things that are instructional. Very rarely, like his going to see Vidyasagar and so on, do we see this real seriousness come out. But he wanted Vidyasagar to, he saw that he was just at the precipice, and he wanted him to make the leap to the next level, so to speak. And the mother, of course, spoke that way sometimes too. But she displayed a wide range of emotions. Mainly the master, and even the mother remarked on this, that the master remained lighthearted. She said, I never saw him sad. Of course, there were times during his sadhana, his spiritual journey, that he was more than sad. He was at the point of committing suicide. But by the time Holy Mother came to him and began to serve him those years, of course, he had transformed from that because of his realizations and his ascension to the highest. Thank you, Shailesh, for bringing that to our attention. And anything else from anyone? Comment, question, something from your own wisdom or experience, as Shailesh just shared? All right, dears. This is a wonderful subhead. Love always triumphs.
Yes.
What a thing for us to hold in mind. So please go ahead, dear.
Okay, love always triumphs. Malaria, typhoid, pneumonia, dysentery, and cholera were the main killers in Bengal in the early 20th century, as they are in many poverty-stricken rural areas today. Mosquitoes, flies, and polluted drinking water are the main carriers of those diseases. Mosquitoes multiply in the stagnant water of village ponds, and the filth washed by rain from the bushes around the ponds pollutes the water.
Now, this is what they mean by the filth, is people would relieve themselves in the bushes around the ponds. And so then it would wash into the ponds. E. coli would just proliferate.
Villagers often bathed and wash their clothes in the same water that they use for cooking and drinking. In Holy Mother's time, Jairambati had no doctors and medicine was not easily available. Holy Mother suffered from malaria many times in Jairambati, and Saradananda would send doctors and medicine from Calcutta for her treatment. These doctors were often alarmed when they saw the mother's emaciated body, and they would bring her back to Calcutta to recoup her broken health. Swami Parameshwarananda recalled, men and women bathed in Banerjee's pond, which is located on the south side of Jairambati village. The villagers used that water for drinking also. I used to bathe in the Amadar River at the northern part of the village. One could find pure, clean water by digging into the sandbank of the river by hand. I decided to collect that water for the mother to drink. So I carried a pitcher with me when I went for bathing. I collected that clean water and put the pitcher near the master's altar in her room. I said, Mother, you worship the master with this water and then use it for drinking. I thought that the mother would be pleased with that water, but she scolded me instead. She said, who has asked you to bring this water? I have not asked you. I drink the sweet water of Banerjee's pond. Don't bring it again. Later, I noticed that the mother used the water I had brought for worshiping the master, and she drank it also. The next day, I thought, since the mother was drinking this water, I should bring it again, though she forbade me. This water is undoubtedly purer than the water of Banerjee's pond. So I took the pitcher to the river as before, collected the water in the same way, and brought it to the mother. Seeing the water, the mother angrily said, why have you brought this water? Who has asked you to bring it? I forbade you, and still you are bringing the water. I'm satisfied with this local water. Will you not obey me? Do not bring water anymore. I kept quiet, but I noticed that she used the water again. That was funny. The next day, I brought water from the sandbank of the Amadar River and placed the pitcher once more near the altar of the master. This time, the mother became very much irritated and told me, I am forbidding you repeatedly, and still you are bringing the water. Will you not listen to me? Observing that the mother was enjoying the water, I emphatically replied, Mother, I go to bathe in the river every day, and I will bring water for you. If you wish, drink it. Otherwise, don't drink it. But I will bring water every day.
Good for him. Sometimes we just have to put our foot down.
At this, the compassionate mother told me in an affectionate voice, my son, you are bringing that water and I'm drinking it with great relish. This water is really good for my health. I forbade you because I did not want you to suffer from carrying this water such a long distance.
Now notice, the mother had no objection to the water. She just didn't want her son to suffer carrying a heavy pitcher of water. As we all know, a pitcher of water weighs a good bit, 7 to 10 pounds.
That's right. I deeply felt her motherly affection and compassion. On one other occasion, I disobeyed the mother. Mandakini, an attendant of the mother, was suffering from pneumonia with a high temperature, chills, and chest pain. I said, Mother, let me arrange for Manda's stay in a nearby neighbor's cottage, which will be convenient for looking after her. The mother replied, No, she has come to serve me. Where will she go? She will stay in my room. Manda made her bed on the floor between the master's altar and the mother's cot. It became inconvenient for the mother to get up and down from her cot and perform worship to the master. Moreover, her rice, dal, puffed rice, and other groceries were in her room, and she would meet the devotees there also. I could find no solution, so I went to Kolpara Ashrama and informed Swami Keshavananda of this situation. He agreed to look after the treatment and nursing of the patient. On my way back to Jairambati, I arranged for a palanquin and bearers in Haldi village and asked them to come to the mother's house the next morning. All these arrangements were made without consulting the mother. When Holy Mother saw the palanquin in the morning, she asked me with wonder, My son, who is going by palanquin? I replied, Mother, we have decided to send Manda to Kolpara Ashrama, where she will get treatment. Swami Keshavananda has taken responsibility for her treatment and diet. There will be no difficulty. Hearing this, Mother angrily said, Why have you brought the palanquin without asking me? She has come to serve me. Where will she go? She will stay here. Who has given you permission to bring the palanquin? Determined, I said, Mother, I will not listen to your order. I'm sending her to Kolpara. Holy Mother replied, Then you won't obey my order. No, Mother, I won't listen to your order in this respect. Moreover, Radhu's son comes to your room, and this is not good for him. The mother did not say anything. I asked Manda to get ready, which offended her immensely. Her desire was to stay with the mother all the time. Although there was great difficulty with her staying in Jairambati, she preferred to be near the mother if she were to die. She was reluctant to move anywhere else, and she too was mad at me. When the mother went to Punyapukar, a pond, I told Manda, You have come to serve the mother, and now you are thinking only of yourself. Can't you feel the mother's difficulties? As soon as the mother returned, I kept quiet. Again, when the mother went out, I insisted, If you do not want to give trouble to the mother, please get in the palanquin. Don't delay anymore. You will have to go to Kolpara. Reluctantly, she got up from her bed and got into palanquin. As soon as she left, we cleaned the mother's room, and slowly the bad odor of the patient disappeared. Later, the mother told me, It is good that she was sent to Kolpara. She had a desire to stay with me. She came to serve me. So I forbade you from sending her against her wishes. After a few days, Manda was cured of pneumonia and returned to Jairambati. I feel guilty that I had...
Hang on just a minute.
Sure.
Notice again, and Chaitanananda very consciously includes these things. There are times when we just have to listen to our heart and feel, no, this needs to be done. Even though there's that other feeling from the mother, perhaps not. It's a difficult line to walk. But notice that in both instances, when it was all done and said and done with, the mother was glad that it had been done. So, and notice that when this woman went to Kualpara and was taken proper care of, she recovered in a few days. Now, one can argue, oh, well, she would have recovered in a few days anyway. Oh, probably not, because she wasn't receiving proper care. You know, the mother couldn't, at that stage of her life, couldn't care for a pneumonia patient. And the young man was very right in saying it was not good for others to come in the room. I mean, pneumonia is a very contagious disease. People cough and sneeze and spray them. I mean, the bacteria, if it's bacterial pneumonia or viral pneumonia, either one, you know, whatever, they spray it all over the place. And so he was right to do this.
Yes.
Any comments or questions from anyone? Well, am I right in saying it's 9 o'clock?
It's 9 p.m. Yes. There is only four more lines, Brother Shankara, for this sub-chapter. If you want me to.
Please go ahead and read them then.
And then next week we can start the story of Jadu. Okay. The last few lines. I felt guilty that I had disobeyed the mother, my guru. Later, I told my story to Swami Saradananda, and he reassured me. There is no fear. You disobeyed the mother for her own welfare. Remember, whenever you disobey the mother, let there be no self-interest in your mind. Let your actions be for her service and convenience. That's the end of that subchapter.
So there's the guidance that was missing from what was said before. If you disobey, make sure it is for the good of the divine person. And so we were few this evening, which is a little bit of a shame. But, I did say at the beginning, if we could, going forward, be prompt and be here at 8 o'clock. I know some of you can't, but if you can, if it's just a matter of being a little distracted and, oh, well, I'll wait a few minutes. Please honor us by coming promptly at 8 o'clock as you can, so that we can get started and have the full hour together. So we'll close with this. O beloved Father, Mother, Master, Mother, we benefit so much from this time together, studying the Mother's life and hearing what she has to say and how she lives and how others relate to her. We are very grateful for this opportunity. And so, if it be thy sweet will, let it continue, and let this study of the Mother's life together enrich us and embolden us to live as spiritual beings rather than as worldly beings, which is what Mother did. Mother lived as a spiritual being in human form. this is our opportunity as well. And it happens because we pray for that opportunity, as you know. So, thy sweet will be done. Om Hari Om Tat Sat. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga Durga Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. So until tomorrow night, for those of you who wish to join us for the study of Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga, it's been a delight as always to be with you. And is there any final thought from any of you? All right.
I can comment on one thing, Brother Shankara.
Yes, dear.
Just like he took the lady Manda to the village for mother's sake, mother's good health. Sometimes in life, we all have to make those decisions. You know, sometimes our elderly parents, they may not like to have some help by a doctor, but sometimes we have to do that because we know that they won't get better unless we take them. It's just an example I'm giving.
Yes, and a wonderful
It's
one.
for the benefit of the parents, not for our sake. It's mainly for them to get
Yes,
better.
this is very, very much a part of my own experience. Not that, well, it happened with my mother, but when my mother went to live with my sister would have to insist that my mother go to the doctor. And because it was very, very difficult to care for her if she was in ill health. And my sister knew that she could recover her health if she got proper medical care. But my mother had always resisted. She would wait till the last moment or when she was in extremis. So my sister insisted, and many times my mother recovered her health from various kinds of ailments before her final passing away. So that was very appropriate what you said, and I'm sure we can all take it to heart. So Jai Ma, Jai
Thank
Ma,
you, Brother Shankara.
Jai Ma.
Thanks, everybody.
And so good night, everyone. Until next
night.
time, much love and much
Good night.
well wishes for each of you. Good night.